So today I'm going to show you simply how to recut or repaint or paint your interior pieces on your FRS. Material wise is pretty simple. You need whatever paint you're using. Your interior pieces, in my case, is just the radio bezel and the little turn piece off on the side of the dash. Various sandpapers. Now, sandpapers do depend on what level you're going to go. If you're going to just do something simple like grabbing some of the, I think it's Rust-Oleum 2X Ultra Cover, then that'll spray right onto the plastic. You don't have to worry about cut and buffing. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So you'll only need like a 400 grit sandpaper. If you plan on clear coating, cut and buffing, so on and so forth, to make it look really, really glossy, then you're going to want just an assortment pack of the high grit, which this includes 1000, 15, 2000, 2500, and one sheet is going to be plenty, one little small sheet, so you can get away with that real easily. You'll need water, of course, for wet sanding. There's a little bit of soap in this just to allow the sandpaper to glide a little bit better. As for paint, I'm using a full 3-stage paint. Now, I'm doing this because I'm actually at the same time testing a theory, I guess you can say. So I've got my white primer that then will be sprayed, or over the top of it will be sprayed a fluorescent paint. Now, fluorescent will fade in sunlight. So I'm going to put a nice Krylon Color Max Clear over the top of it. Put a lot of coats over the top of it to try to just, I want to test it because this may be the future color of the wheels. To get a brighter green, I have to go with a fluorescent color, and that's where I didn't want to get into it the first time. I'm going to go ahead and test it on the interior pieces, see if it fades, because I'll have a good indication from the top to the bottom of the piece as the sun goes inside the interior and so on, if it's going to fade or not. I do not suggest to try this on your own unless you're testing it like I am. As for difficulty, I'm going to give this a 1 out of 5 because this is stupidly simple. You just be patient, and it's a little time consuming with the two pieces I'm doing. In this setting it's not, but in the factory setting it is. I'll get into that later. But for the most part, it's sand, spray, you're done. Time consumption, it's paint dry. Like anything else that you're painting, you wait on dry time. So it can be anywhere from 2 hours to 48 hours. It just depends on your paint and the full cure time. You want to make sure it's fully cured before you stick it in your car, because the last thing you want is your car to smell like paint. Trust me, I've done it. First things first, if you're doing these two pieces, it's this piece and the radio trim. Now, I know on the FRSs, at least the 2016s, it has a texture. Now, that texture is not built into the plastic. It seems to be some kind of vinyl sticker that is not just put on like a wrap vinyl, but it's glued. There's an actual contact cement underneath that vinyl, so I guess just to make sure it doesn't bubble. That's your number one problem getting off. It sucks to get off. I spent a good hour getting it off in the first place, but now mine is just wrapped in the carbon fiber green by Tech Wrap. It's simple as just peeling it off and cleaning it up. Here's what the parts look like now that I've got all the vinyl off of it. Now yours, probably all around, I do believe, if I remember right, this whole seam all the way around. And then you can see the damage that was done from the original adhesive. There wasn't much I could do about that because it's like they dripped another chunk of adhesive on here and it just ate into everything. Same goes for this piece. This piece was completely covered in adhesive. So it's not too bad this time around. Now I did use an adhesive promoter when I stuck the vinyl on. So like this section here and then like the trims and then the edges have adhesive left behind, and I'm going to have to get that off. You can use alcohol, adhesive remover, you can use a ton of different things, but it really doesn't matter how you get it off. It's the point that you just get it off without damaging the plastic, so you don't want to use acetones or anything like that. As you can see, all the vinyl's off of it. So if you're at the basically same step I am, you removed all the factory sticker material or whatever that is that's wrapped around these, and you removed all the adhesive. You probably have some damage marks on it, unless you, I don't know, are more patient than me. I'm not patient. I scraped it off, and because of that, originally there was pits and little like scraper nick marks all in both of these panels. Now with the vinyl, it didn't show. With paint, it will. So all I'm doing is using sandpaper and sanding the surface down until it takes out all the little imperfections and the little nicks. Now if you have, man, this is so minute, and I don't want to keep sanding here and take this whole surface down, the primer will fill that. A lot of these little nicks and scrape marks and stuff, the primer will fill. And if you want, you can go on and just jump to the primer stage and put a couple coats of primer on it and then come back and do this if you want. Or like I'm going to do it now, put primer on it, and do it again. That way I make sure the surface is perfect. So everything's clean, ready to go. I need gloves. Now I'm using a 2X primer just because I want a nice, thick, nasty primer. But don't put it on one coat. Like, don't put a real thick coat. That causes, as the paint dries, it's going to shrink up and you're going to get a crap ton of imperfections you're going to have to sand out. So it's light coats. Just put light coats. Light coat's good enough. You may want to, after like 2 light coats, put a medium coat. But not like with spray can, don't put a heavy coat. It's not going to turn out well. Another trick when spray painting, or even with a paint gun, start spraying before the part. Stop spraying after the part. Because you start in the middle, you have a glob of paint, and then thin paint, and then a glob of paint, and then thin paint. So here we have it. Let me give you a nice zoom up and see. It's hard to tell because it's white, but a lot of it actually kind of filled in pretty good, but there's no point in wasting a bunch of primer spraying without knocking down the top surface now. You could do this prior to priming, I guess, but I like going ahead and putting the primer on it so as I start knocking it down, I can see where the low spots are, the high spots are, and start really working on those without laying a layer of Bondo across the top of it, trying to smooth it down. To move from here to a better surface, it's wet sanding time. So there's a lot of tutorials out there on proper wet sanding and stuff like that. The idea is you're not going to wet sand like this, then you'll cut grooves in it. Just simply lubricate the surface with soap and water, and just, well, now I don't have enough on it, and just kind of go back and forth. Now you want to sand in a single direction. Don't cut circles. I'll leave swirl marks and stuff in it. So just go in one direction, excuse me, if at all possible. And even just now, just barely grazing over it, like the surface is getting really close to being perfectly smooth. It won't take much. Since this is plastic, it is very easy to fix just simply by throwing some primer on it and sanding it down some. Let me show you something real quick. I'm identifying some spots that aren't going to be fixed with this layer of primer, but it is really close, and I will keep sanding on it, see if I can fix it. We have, see if I can get this to focus. You can see that little high spot, the low spots, and then that low spot right there. I will keep sanding on it to see if that'll come out with the 400 grit. It may not. I may have to go back and hit it with the 120 again to go ahead and knock it out. Or if it's really close to coming out, and I mean very close to coming out, another layer of primer. These you can see I've dealt with. I'm working on this corner here and this little line here. These right here, if you run your hand down them, all but like right there, there's a high spot, but the rest of them are nice, filled in and smooth. Now it is time to see if all your hard work paid off. Again, hopefully the final layer of primer. Now if you put this on there, it looks like crap. Well, go back a step, and actually back would be this way, I think. I don't know. go back a step and do it again. I'm looking at this while it's still partially wet, and minus a lot of orange peel, which is about normal for 2X paint. It's good. Okay, base coat time. Now with the base coat, you can go with a million different paints. I discussed that at the beginning of the video. So to start this off, you always want to do a light coat. It's like a bonding coat. Make sure the paint's going to stick good. And don't put it on too thick. If you put it on too thick, again, the paint will kind of wrinkle up and then you'll get imperfections in it. Or if there's a chemical in it, if like a contamination, it's going to be way too late to see it, and then you're going to have to sand all that paint back down. So start with a few light coats, especially the first one's a really, really light coat, and after that you can start building the thickness of the coat just ever so slightly. But I don't even think you need a medium wet coat for this. It's all in the paint. If the paint's not covering right, you got to put it on a little bit thicker. If it's covering perfect, just keep putting it on thin. Alright, I couldn't show you that last coat because I actually pick up the part and move it. I just sprayed a medium wet coat, and there's some imperfections in it, which I knew there would be. It's aerosol paint. The particulates of the paint don't always, or aren't always the same size, so you get an imperfection look in it. It looks like there's dirt in it. This is actually not dirt. There might be a couple pieces in it, but it's not bad at all. Idea is to let this sit here for about 15-20 minutes-ish, where it's like right on the verge of being dry to the touch, but not fully dry. Like you can touch it, but of course it's not fully dry. And we're going to want to clear it. It looks really good. I mean, you can see the reflection of the trees and stuff in the background. Turned out really, really nice. Okay, so now from the done clear coat to the finished product that you saw, the only difference is cutting and buffing. You may or may not opt to do that. Me, I did, because I got a little bit of dust in it, so all I had to do, you can start with 1,000, then 1,500, 2,000, 2,500. It's all in that like $4 assortment pack you can buy at Walmart. Finish it off, and then I just used one of their little buffing pads. I bought a little package of it. It was like $2. And the same compounds I used in that video, and cut, buffed, waxed it. Now, it turned out really good as you see, like stupid good, especially for hand buffing, and that's why I went to 2,500. You can go ahead and take it up higher than that, and then you can probably get out any of the little sand marks that hand buffing didn't get out. That's fine. If you're using a machine, well, then you're going to get better results, just like, you know, the machine that I used in the video that I carded up there. But there's a couple things that you need to understand. A, this is a fluorescent paint. It doesn't lay down very evenly. B, it might fade. Don't use it yet. I don't know personally how it's going to turn out. That's why I'm testing it here. If it doesn't work, that's fine. I can go back to the same color that I painted the wheels with. And at a later date, when I have the wheels repainted the custom color that I want, those interior pieces, along with the two pieces down the center that I'll eventually pull out, those will also be painted that same green. All the other parts are just going to go matte black to just blend in with the interior, like the little side handles and stuff. I don't want green side handles. I don't want any of that. So, if you want better results, this is here what I suggest. If you have access to a compressor like I do, you can go down and buy a trim gun. Now, the trim guns, you can get a pretty nice trim gun at Harbor Freight, gravity fed one for 20 bucks. Go to an automotive paint supply. You can buy little they're almost like tester groups of paint, small little things of paint. You can get your primer, base, and clear. Spray all that out. Make sure you put quite a few coats of clear over the top of it, and then cut and buff that with a machine. Then you're talking 100% glass. Like, there will be zero imperfections in it. It'll be literally look like a factory coat finish. That's close, and it's cheap.
Now, the point behind all this is now you can look at someone when they ask about it and say, I did that. And you control the outcome, how good it looks. If it looks like crap, well, you don't have to fight with the shop. Sand it down a little bit more maybe. And if you get a little bit too low, add a couple more coats of clear, sand it some more, you know. I mean, there's always something, take your time with it. If you have any questions, just comment below. That's fine. I'll try to do my best to get to it as quick as possible. Sometimes I can get to it almost immediately. Sometimes it takes me till the evening or the next morning or whatever. But smash a like if you like these videos. Subscribe because I do a bunch of DIYs, and I do a non-scheduled blog thingy that just kind of covers a bunch of crap that I do with the car and to the car and then pseudo other stuff. But thank you for watching, and remember, take pride in what you do and do it yourself, and get interrupted at the very end by your phone. I ain't really doing that though. Have a good whatever time of the day it happens to be.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.